Hi, everyone. It's so great to see you all today, and we are so excited to be showcasing the Sana Benefits story with Hilary Dudek, who has been instrumental in scaling CX and support at Sana Benefits and Assembled's role in that process. My name is Valerie, and I'm on the product marketing team here at Assembled. For those of you joining us for the first time today, and welcome. Assembled is a workforce management platform built for modern support teams. We work with amazing partners like Zoom, Etsy, Robinhood, Intuit, Stripe, and Sana Benefits, to name a few. In a past life, I was on the customer success team, so it's always great to see a number of familiar faces here. I will pass the mic to Hilary to introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Hilary Dudek, and I've been the Director of Member Operations for Sana Benefits since August of 2020. Sana Benefits, for those of you who may not know, is a startup healthcare company founded in 2017 and based out of Austin, Texas. Our mission is to make quality healthcare understandable, accessible, and affordable for all. Now I'll pass the mic along to Sam.
Thank you, Hilary. Hi, everybody. I am Sam, and I work on our solutions team here at Assemble. I identify as a bit of a professional multiple hat wearer, but some of my favorite hats that I've had the chance to wear include being Assembled's first implementation manager, and in a prior life, being the workforce manager myself over at Imperfect Foods, doing all of their scheduling, planning, and analytics using Assembled as well. So kind of happy to speak to the double life there. And then, of course, being Hilary's implementation manager through this journey. So excited to be chatting with you guys about the story so far and ahead.
Thanks, Sam and Hilary. Really excited to dive in today. Today, we will be covering Sana Benefits CX org and philosophy and the beginning of Hilary's journey, the workforce management platform evaluation process, and essentially Hilary will be telling us that inflection point of when we really needed a workforce management tool. Thirdly, implementing Assembled with Sam leading the charge there, as well as efficiency gains since implementation. Also, folks, if you have any questions for us, please feel free to use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and that just ensures that we will get to your question in a timely manner. And also, a recording will be sent out immediately right after our session today. Hilary, I'd love to start with where you were in your career before joining Sana Benefits. What really excited you about joining Sana Benefits initially?
Oh, that's a great question. Definitely the mission and the culture. Making healthcare accessible, affordable, and understandable is obviously desperately needed here in the US, so that was a no-brainer. The mission drew me in, and the culture is really what sold me. Sana embraces authenticity and encourages and models work-life balance from the top down. And they also approach remote work from a place of trust and empowerment.
Wow, that sounds absolutely incredible, especially like making healthcare accessible to all, as well as the fact that the culture around remote work, especially with the paradigm shift today, that just seems so incredibly instrumental. And I would love to hear a little bit more about kind of the beginning of your journey at Sana Benefits and what the CX organization looked like when you initially joined Hilary. How big was the team and what was the structure?
My team, member operations, comprises both provider and member support, which is provided by both an outsourced team, we use Partner Hero, as well as our internal team of member advocates. So when I came on 2 years ago, we began quite small with 2 member advocates and a handful of Partner Hero folks on the team. Fast forward to today, I have 21 Sana employees on my team who primarily support our members. Out of those 21, we have 18 member advocates, 2 support managers, and a learning and development manager. And then on the Partner Hero side, we have 9 provider support specialists with 2 team leads and a team manager. So despite being the largest team on the operations side at Sana, we are overall still fairly small.
Wow, Hilary, that is amazing to hear how much the team has scaled since you joined back in 2020 in just like 2 short years. And I can imagine that you played an instrumental part in the scaling process there. And before we dive into all the nuts and bolts there, I would love to hear a bit more about the CX philosophy at Sana Benefits. And how do y'all think about delivering great customer support?
Yeah. Our mission is to really, on the support team at least, is to really give a white glove approach to customer experience and customer support. So, really taking the burden off the member. Obviously, our mission as a company is to make quality healthcare understandable, accessible, and affordable. And the support experience really is that for our members. So, our member advocates are so amazing at being able to translate really difficult healthcare terminology and ideas to make them understandable. We also make them very accessible, both through our channels of support as well as all of the knowledge-based articles that we have that we share with our members, and affordable. We are able to point our members to our Sana Care partners as needed in order to save them money. For example, blood draws or imaging services. There's definitely perks that members are not always aware of that my team is able to inform them on. So that white glove approach is really key to how we approach support in the customer experience here.
Wow, that is really amazing to hear there in terms of the white glove support and how your team essentially just widens that access and that awareness to the various benefits and offerings that Sana Benefits has. We'd love to hear maybe throughout this journey of scaling. Can imagine that there were points in that where you might have thought, spreadsheets or a current solution is maybe not the most sustainable in terms of the journey to scale and where we want to be. So would love to hear a little bit more about, that journey and timeline for you.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's this idea maybe in startup life that implementing a workforce management tool can seem excessive or extra. People maybe tend to think of it as a luxury, one that comes a few years in the future once your team is grown and your support team infrastructure is really settled. But I disagree. I think a workforce management tool is crucial to laying the foundation to scale because it eases the burden of tracking channel staffing as well as schedule and channel adherence. You can say goodbye to the days of a static support team calendar in Google Sheets and replace it with a dynamic schedule that integrates with tools that you already use. And the ability to track adherence using performance analytics pulled directly from your CRM is incredibly important as well. So being able to generate those insights for capacity planning and forecasting using historical data, all of that good stuff, I think it's key to scaling a support team early on.
Wow. That is, yeah, just like hearing about the pieces there of what is really instrumental and making sure that you have a platform that integrates with the tools that your agents and your team uses definitely seems really, really important. Would love to hear a little bit more about maybe, some of those pieces around, when you knew it was time to really implement a tool, and maybe even starting with the scheduling piece.
Oh, yeah. So we were scheduling using Google Sheets and Google Calendar. And as a result, we were really struggling to make proper staffing adjustments on the fly. If someone called out sick or had to move their lunch because a call with a member went too long, it was really hard to have visibility into what we were working with as far as the schedule. We also did not have great insight into schedule adherence. So were our agents actually working when they were scheduled to be working? We were hearing some grumblings here and there that agents were feeling understaffed or burnt out, but per our staffing model, we were staffed appropriately. So that looked fine. Our gut said we were staffed appropriately. So where was the glitch? And that was like that first sign that was like, okay, I think we perhaps need to move on to something a little more robust because scheduling out of Google Sheets, as great as they are, is not the way to go when you're scaling a support team.
And we're showing a little snapshot, folks, of the Google Sheets schedule that might honestly seem familiar to a number of y'all. Sam would love. Yes.
Oh, yeah. I was about to just interject here and say this takes me back immediately to my time at Imperfect, being the workforce manager, working out of a spreadsheet exactly like this. And I have to say, especially I was managing about 80 to 100 people out of the spreadsheet, and it was seriously thousands of cells. And by the time we were getting a tool, I was just about ready to pull my hair out. I felt so burnt out managing out of this kind of structure. I'm sure that sounds really familiar to Hilary and a lot of the other folks here. And in that moment, when we actually finished implementing Assembled on our side, one of my claims to fame at Imperfect is I printed out a fat stack of paper that was just a printed out version of our spreadsheet schedule. And I actually used a lighter and burnt it and posted photos on our internal Slack channels celebrating the day we moved on to a tool. I'm sure it's a familiar feeling for a lot of folks here. And by the way, small plug, we are running a Burn Your Spreadsheets themed candle raffle for anybody that signs up for a demo from this webinar today. So if any of this sounds familiar and you too would like to literally burn your spreadsheets, you have found the right place.
I love that, Sam. Actually, speaking of that candle, I literally have it in the corner of my room burning, and it's a very nice vanilla scent, and you can literally use it just as a celebratory I am done with this spreadsheet moment as you move on to scheduling. That just feels so much more seamless and scalable with your team. So moving on from the adherence piece of it, Hilary, would love to maybe hear about kind of the last element around baseline KPIs and how that was looking like before you decided to evaluate the WFM landscape.
Yes. So our baseline KPIs were not consistent in meeting expectations, basically. So we have some key markers for success on our team. For our member advocates, they know if they roughly have an 80% adherence to their schedule, that they're doing well. Their QA scores, we call them values alignment. That should be about 85% consistently. Our CSAT, I will say, has been a very rock solid, consistent 93 plus. I think it's hovering at 96 right now. So that one's been good. But we were also seeing big influxes, big periods of time where we were missing calls as well, or not achieving our SLAs. And that was a big indicator to me that this wasn't working well.
Totally. Yeah. These three factors here around scheduling and not having sustainability with a spreadsheet combined with a need for adherence as well as tracking baseline KPIs definitely seems like a really big case to make to look for a workforce management tool. Mm-hmm. Would love to hear kind of as that next step, how you went about evaluating the workforce management landscape, Hilary.
Yeah, so I put together a scorecard with multiple factors that would go into the attributes I was looking for in a workforce management tool. So the first one was the quality of the support provided. What level of support is, first of all, provided by the vendor in general? For example, some vendors offered only email support. Some offered multiple channels of support, but were based in Europe. Some offered real-time support based in channels we already used, like Slack. So that was a really key consideration because I had no idea how this implementation and rollout was going to go. So I needed to know I had support. I also wanted to make sure that was going to be easy to use in a startup. I think everyone is familiar that you end up wearing many hats, many outside of your job description. And so you're juggling multiple things. You need to see, or you need to be able to implement some of these things quickly, easily, smoothly. And we weren't sure if the implementation would take months and require a lot of customization and configuration or the support needed. So that was a big consideration for me. And then the forecasting piece was really key as well. Could the tool use data points to predict future time of volume? We had a good old-fashioned Google sheet that we used to forecast our volume and our staffing needs. But it would be great if we could find a tool that would do this for us accurately. We were also really looking at real-time reporting at the time. This is less of an issue now for me because not only does Assembled do this, but Zendesk does it now. But at the time, it wasn't something that Zendesk was offering. So I didn't have a real-time dashboard, and being able to track and see data in real time was very important to us. And then the integrations, we already use quite a spectrum of tools here, and we use Zendesk, Guru, Slack, G Suite, Monday.com, Asana. So could this tool integrate with as little disruption as possible? And then, of course, price and return on investment, and what was that going to look like for us? Because we're a startup. So I had to make sure I could get the budget for it.
Absolutely. All these considerations, Hilary, seem so tremendously important, not only making sure that the time of value is there, especially as a startup, but also making sure that the workforce management platform you work with actually moves at the speed of your business. And so really, really important, hearing all of these facets into your decision. Would love to zoom in a little bit more and hear about what about Assembled stood out to you.
Yeah, I think Assembled really hit the mark in terms of everything that we were looking for on that attributes page. So they offered a real-time dashboard and agile staffing timeline, which was really key for us to be able to move and shift people around as people called out or whatever during the day. Assembled also offered insight into adherence and occupancy metrics, which was not something that we could really track at all at that point in time. The closest we could have was Zendesk, what Zendesk could tell us as far as being online or available for calls or chats, but that was it. And we really wanted visibility into the bigger picture with staffing and volume needs. We wanted to be able to take our projected sales volume for a quarter or for the year and plug that in and be able to understand, okay, with the SLAs that we have, what are we looking at in terms of hiring?
Absolutely. Like all these pieces here, especially around visibility into not only, what your team is doing in the moment in real time, but also into the future. All of these aspects sound so tremendously important and hugely what we emphasize, in our platform and our experience. Would love to transition over to Sam to chat a little bit more about the implementation experience with Assembled and your journey with us once you decided to move forward with Assembled.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that, Val. So to kick us off, I would just like to say I have absolutely loved working with the Sana Benefits team. They've been amazing partners to work with. And really the name of the game with implementation is all about partnership. And that works best when everybody involved is keeping a tight feedback loop and having a lot of conversations about goals and leaning into that relationship as well. So the partnership between our team and the Sana team has been really awesome for getting them to a place where we can achieve their specific goals. And actually moving beyond that into something a little bit more specific, if you will. So to me, what partnership really means is leaning into not just getting someone to a place where they could use the tool, but getting somebody to a place where they could use the tool, not just in a broad way, but in a way that's really specific to their goals and their use case, which you uncover through a deep partnership and making sure that people are supported every step of the way into getting to those specific goals, which in the case of Hilary and Sana Benefits was a lot of delving into having great sight lines on the schedule that moves in an agile way, as well as getting nitty gritty with real-time monitoring and adherence and making sure that work was evenly distributed. Now, part of this process actually begins before implementation even starts inside of our sales process, which for Hilary would have wrapped up on June 28th of last year. And during our sales process, we try to get really in the weeds on discovering all of the goals, all of the structure, anything we can uncover early to just make sure we're locked in lockstep alignment for implementation and getting folks to their goals, which is where I came in. And around this particular implementation, that would have been around July 1st. We kind of got started diving in and doing the groundwork to getting Hilary's team up and running for meeting their specific goals on August 16th timeline. So a pretty quick turnaround there for seeing some pretty awesome attainment of scheduling agility, as well as insight into adherence and KPIs that wasn't there before. So really excited to chat a little bit more specifically about that as well, but would love to hear from Hilary. I swear I'm not fishing for compliments here, but how do you think your implementation went?
I think implementation went incredibly well, and I'm not just saying that because you're on the call. It really only took a couple of working sessions with you to sync the tool to Zendesk, connect it to Google Calendar, set up our preferred events in the tool, and add a couple of schedule templates, and we were basically ready to go. A nice feature too was that we were able to add, excuse me, all of our advocates without sending an invite, so we could ensure that the tool was ready to go, everyone was in place, and then send the invites out to all of the advocates. So that's what we did. And we launched it on August 16th of last year. So, oh my gosh, a year and a day ago.
Amazing. And yeah, those little change management pieces are so important for just making sure that things go off without a hitch. You only get one chance to make a great first impression. And actually, the second piece of our onboarding philosophy, aside from, of course, partnership and making sure that you're getting to your specific goals, is also making sure that you're getting there in a timeline that works for you and is high velocity. Because, of course, when it comes to managing your business, you want to see these gains as quickly as possible and not on a timeline of months or years, but ideally much, much faster than that. And today we can actually onboard new teams in as little as a week of setup time, as we've just continued to improve and iterate on the process, supported by our implementation team, as well as a variety of async resources. And a small plug here, we're now also doing office hours, which we're very excited about. We host them 6 times a week, and anybody is welcome to slide in from across our whole community with any little in the moment questions or anything that we can help with in a group setting that we found has also been really great for kickstarting folks learning. And that's actually a new addition since Hilary worked through our implementation process last year. So lots of exciting developments in this space as well. And with that, I'll go ahead and kick it over to Hilary to hear a little bit more about what value has looked like since implementation.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you. One of the key components, of course, is the reception by the team. How did that go? And something I didn't mention earlier, but that we were doing prior to implementing Assembled was talking about it. Often, we would talk about this with the team. And we would approach these conversations with empathy and curiosity and transparency. We wanted to be mindful of the fact that even small changes can be disruptive to other people and can be hard to navigate for individuals. And we wanted to make sure that we were being very transparent and honest about the capabilities of Assembled and how we were going to use them and why. Some of the advocates felt the tool was very big brothery, so we were very explicit about what information was being collected and how it was going to be used. Ultimately, when we did roll out Assembled, the team's reception was fairly mixed. I would say probably 25-30% of them felt some type of way about the fact that we can now easily see when they weren't online for their scheduled phone time or chat time, or when they weren't logged into Zendesk at all. But they definitely, we worked with them. We kept having those conversations with them, and overall today, it's just now part of their life, and everyone new that has come on since has had 0 issues with it.
Amazing. And I do think that reception to the tool is fairly common with that mixed reaction. And it is so important that, as I mentioned earlier, you only get one shot to make a great first impression. Change management is so important. And some strategies I've seen for how folks like to talk about this with agents, and Hilary, you actually tapped on it a little bit earlier on in the presentation, but adherence isn't just a great metric for the more upper leadership of your business and holding people accountable, it's also a great metric for ensuring that agents don't get burnt out and work is evenly distributed. Because in a lot of situations, what ends up happening if you're not keeping track of adherence is, in reality, you might have a handful of high flyers that are really getting in there and knocking out tickets left and right. And then you might have a handful of low flyers or average flyers, kind of people all over the pack. But if you're not keeping track of that accurately, what can end up happening is your occupancy will be ridiculously high for your top performers, and you're more likely to have those people burn out, leave the company potentially, and that definitely isn't great for your business or a great agent experience. So one way I've seen folks talk about this in a way that really shows agents their ROI on this as well is saying, hey, this isn't just a tool for knowing where you are all the time. It's also a tool for making sure that work is evenly distributed and you're not going to be the only one that's flying high.
Exactly. And that's exactly what we tried to do. So I think it worked out overall pretty well. And there are a lot of other great benefits that came out after implementation, as I very much hoped and expected. So, for example, it is now so much easier to see our staffing in real time. To be able to overlay our staffing with our forecasted volume is incredibly important. And now we're able to make scheduling changes on the fly without spending like a ridiculous amount of time doing that. So we saw about roughly a 50% reduction in time spent scheduling. For example, creating a schedule from scratch for 20 plus advocates normally would be half a day of work. Now maybe it's 2 hours if you're like really starting from scratch. If someone calls in sick, it used to take 20, 30 minutes sometimes for managers to be able to like sort through the schedule, look at the coverage, see where the gaps were, check on our calendar to see which advocates had flexibility to change, ensure there was coverage on the channels that we were moving them from. It was a whole ordeal. But now with Assembled, it takes just a couple of clicks and we can see all of the information immediately and we can slide and drag and drop schedule changes. So it takes about 10 minutes maybe to make changes now. And advocates are able to assist with their own scheduling as well by syncing their Google Calendar directly to the tool. So they're empowered now to take charge of their own schedule as well, which I think definitely helped with the reception piece as well. We already touched on adherence. We definitely saw increased adherence overall. It was about a 19% increase, which was fabulous. We also saw a wonderful increase in our SLAs. So we had about a 10% increase in our first reply time and a 5% increase in our next reply time, which is fabulous because we were missing a lot of interactions. And so that definitely impacted how many calls and chats were being missed as well. So we saw an increase in that achievement, which was ideal. And then something that is not part of our regularly measured KPIs at this point, but something that I'm very interested in is the utilization. And we actually saw a 7% increase in utilization gains just from implementation to a few months after. So that's been a fascinating metric for me to track, and I've been keeping an eye on it. So seeing that increase was definitely beneficial as well.
Amazing. So now that we've chatted a little bit about some of these value gains a bit more abstractly, I'd love to dive into some of the hard ROI behind some of the things that we're talking about. So to kick us off, we have the adherence before Assembled. And by the way, for curious folks at home, how we got this number was based on their initial adherence during that very first few weeks of implementation. And their adherence before was 50% on phones and 64% on chat, respectively. And now post-implementation, they are rocking out at 61% average on phones and 81% average on chat for a gain of more than 10% on either channel, almost 20% on chat, which are some pretty serious adherence gains. And then what this translates into is a total of $72K worth of savings per year. And how we back into this math is based on the increase in effective productive hours worked based on time that you're gaining just from agents being in adherence for the hours that you are already paying them to work, essentially. So Basically, with Sana Benefits, they gained an additional 69 hours each week across all channels, just from keeping track of adherence inside of the tool and the coaching opportunities there, which bubbled up to a total savings of 72K per year in adherence alone. This doesn't factor in changes to how quickly it takes to schedule, utilization, pieces like that, just from adherence alone. And then another really important stat here is fewer abandoned customers equals less revenue loss. This is a soapbox that I'm happy to hop up on, that your contact center is not a cost center, it is a revenue driver. And having people not be waiting excessively or missing contacts definitely helps avoid customer churn and creates great customer champions, and ultimately bubbles up to greater revenue for the company wide, as well as improved budgeting accuracy for the finance team and all of those good benefits there. So all of this boils up to quite an ROI just from looking at adherence alone.
Yes. Advocate adherence was truly the biggest eye-opener for, I think, eye-opener for us. Our baseline for the team, like I said before, is 85% schedule adherence. And when we first rolled it out, it was really validating to see some of our highest performing advocates were at 90% plus. Much like you mentioned, Sam, those high performers are just in there churning away. And others, coincidentally, some of the ones that were the squeakiest about the tool, they were at 40% or less. So having this data readily available helped myself and the managers have those tough conversations. And I'm proud to say for each tough one, they are now exceeding expectations. Data talks.
Amazing. Yeah, numbers don't lie, and it's amazing to be able to back into that for coaching opportunities with your team. Just closing us out here, I would love to hear a little bit about, after having gone through your own implementation journey in the last year with Assembled, what would be your advice to somebody that's considering implementing a tool like this?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think ensuring that if it's you rolling it out or your managers, that you're clear on the outcomes you want to achieve, especially in the first 3 months with this tool, and prioritize communicating those clearly and transparently to your agents, explaining the why behind those outcomes. Implementing a workforce management tool is far easier when you have buy-in from your agents.
Amazing. Thank you, Hilary.
Thanks so much, Sam, for driving the implementation piece and really showcasing our philosophy around partnership. I'd love to close us out with a final question for you, Hilary, on some of the things that you are looking forward to for the rest of the year, any exciting initiatives, and thoughts maybe overall.
Yeah. So, as a reminder, we rolled this out last year in 2021. And in 2022, at the start of the year, Sana Benefits overall took on this initiative to really reduce the cost to serve. And so, Assembled really played right into that. I mean, just the time spent reduction for my managers alone and scheduling was a huge reduction in cost to serve. So, as part of that initiative, earlier this year, we went through and cataloged all of the tasks that our member advocates were performing on a daily basis. Anything manual, anything repetitive, how many times a week did they think they were doing it? How much time on average were they spending doing it? And so I have this lovely catalog of just stuff that could be improved, things that could be more efficient, or that could be automated. And so we sort of separated them into those two buckets: what can be more efficient, what can be automated, and what can be a product fix, that sort of thing. And so we're kind of working through that list this year, and it's been really exciting to see the increase in efficiency gains, the increase in member satisfaction. And so that's definitely still on the list for the rest of the year, is just continuing that work.
That is so exciting to hear, Hilary. I feel like we could do a whole other webinar on just that alone, like optimizing and just like making sure that, any manual processes that take toil, how can you, decrease that so then, your advocates and your team can work on the things that, like really move the needle. So love to hear that. I'd love to open up for questions for any folks tuning in. If y'all have any questions for Hilary, Sam, and us, feel free to pop one in the questions icon on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen.
All right, we are getting a few questions in from the chat. How much of the adherence gain was driven by attrition in the ranks of detractors, and how much was through improvement in managing time? Oh, that's a great question from Seth.
Ooh, there was no attrition during the time of detractors, as I'm thinking through this time frame, basically August through fall. Yeah, so it was really all through improvements in managing time, honestly. Being able to it also just helped people. We have a lot of newer member advocates that are maybe didn't come from a support background. They came from a healthcare background or a hospitality industry background. And so they weren't really also used to managing their own flows. What feels very intuitive to me, I've been an agent, I've been an agent for 4 years in the previous life. What feels very intuitive to me, maybe not be to some people. So being able to see their schedule from Assembled integrated into their calendar, integrated into Zendesk. Okay, I'm supposed to be focusing on chats right now. That's all I have to do is handle chats. That was incredibly impactful for them too, to manage their own workflows.
Absolutely. You have to love the autonomy there. And we have another question from Jack. Hilary, you mentioned how certain agents were a little hesitant to adopt the tool. What factors would you say changed their minds after getting used to the platform?
I think it was two main factors. It was conversations with their managers and time. They needed the time to be able to see that we truly weren't going to do anything evil or conniving with the information that we had. We weren't going to suddenly come out and make some ridiculous rules about, adherence or anything else. I mean, I just, there's always some fears and hesitations on the part of agents because, I think everyone has worked on a team where changes were rolled out abruptly with no conversation as to why and no information given to the agents other than, I'm the boss, so do it. So I think there was that hesitancy there and some PTSD perhaps from previous roles. But once they saw that we truly just wanted to make sure that we were understanding staffing and understanding, okay, like, oh, wow, you're the only person on for 2 hours on phones. No wonder you're exhausted and your adherence is so high. Like, let's get you some help. Once they saw that we truly were just trying to better the team and better the member experience with the tool, and we had those conversations repeatedly with them, they started to relax about it.
And just one more question from the audience here. What would you say that those coaching conversations around adherence have looked like when you do have to have a tough conversation?
That's a great question. We have consistent one-on-ones throughout all of Sana. That's not specific to just the member support team. And so we first of all, it's great now that they can log into Assembled themselves and see their scores. So they can track those that way. We also pull them into a spreadsheet for them and put them in Lattice. And we have those conversations really focusing in on the data. Like, this is what the data says. Let's talk more about it. Tell me what happened this week. How are you feeling? What was the workload like? Are you burnt out? Do you need to take some PTO and step away? Were you the only one scheduled for 2 hours? Did you forget to turn your phone off? That's why you have 21 missed calls or whatever the case is. So really using the data to start the conversation, and then approaching that conversation, like I said, with curiosity, just trying to understand why and really listening to them when they speak.
Amazing.
Amazing. These are great questions, folks. Thank you for sending them in. And huge thank you to Hilary for spending time with us today, showcasing your journey, scaling your CX team, as well as with us. And so excited for our partnership ahead. And if you all have any questions for Hilary, her email is above. And if you all would like to continue the conversation with us, we'll be sending out some follow-up links. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.